Observation 1 is the resolution not such based upon the topic of the United States federal government should fulfill MINUSMA. The based upon the framework, one fiat is an act of imagination necessary to vote team's access to debate. Any other frame to an act prosecution should be rejected. 2. The affirmative team has the right to define the topic reasonably through the use of parametrics with the burden of proving the topic true. 3. Policy net benefits the best criterion for the debate allows both teams access to predictable burdens and methods of refutation. 4. Discursive implications to be evaluated through the framework of the affirmative if the methodology of the plan to follow the implications of the criticism must be a direct effect of plan's package. 5. Due to the fact that all words have a multiplicity of meaning unless the affirmative's interpretation is shown to exclude the negative and not be accepted in order to vote silencing the PMC. 6. The PMC is silenced through committing interpretations or framework shifts. The discursive implications or more meaning must be paramount over the PMC's discursive errors. Observation 2 is the background. The United Nations Security Council Resolution 2100 established MINUSMA on July 1st, 2013. Observation 2 is that 11,200 troops were called for, but as of January 31st, 2014, there were only 5,848 troops in Mali. The third point is that the United States has not sent any troops yet. Thus the plan text. The United States program will, through an act of Congress signed by the President, fulfill the United Nations multi-dimensional integrated stabilization mission in Mali troop and equipment mandate by sending 5,352 troops and all necessary equipment. Observation 4 is the solvency. The first argument is that the United States military will not control the mission. The little A is that you can look to the 2011 involvement in Libya, where France and UK took the lead while the United States just played a supporting role. The little B is you can look to the United States contribution to UN peacekeeping missions in South Sudan. I'll get you to the bottom of the solvency. The second argument is that 5,352 troops are going to be key to solving for the violence because that is what the original bill said was the required amount. The third argument is that troops are going to come with their own equipment. The little A is that they're going to come with their own weapons, armor, transportation, clothing, and food. The little B is that MINUSMA guarantees that they're going to be able to get there because they're guaranteeing passage through other countries. The little C is that the troop and police contributing countries are already providing all of the living conditions necessary for troops once they get there. Your question?
Yeah, so you're saying all necessary equipment. Can you is this all necessary equipment needed for the military, or all the necessary equipment MINUSMA is calling for that they need?
Everything they're calling for.
Yeah. So
we're fulfilling their mandate. We're finishing MINUSMA.
Troops come with like clothes and stuff like that.
Alright, advantage 1, violent non-state actors. Advantage 1, violent non-state actors. Basic 1 is uniqueness. The first argument is that Mali is unstable right now. The little A is that you can look at the deposition of Toure linked to extremists in the Tuareg region. And the B point is that you can look at President Keita, who wants international support in order to be able to resolve the problems they're facing right now. The second argument is that they're lacking forces. The little A is that the forces are withdrawing right now. You can look, French forces are withdrawing right now. You can look at the 3,000 to 4,000 troops that they plan to withdraw throughout the course of 2014. The little B is that the United Nations peacekeeping is not able, does not have enough forces at present. The little C is that Malian troops are inexperienced. There's 7,000 troops there, but they don't have any combat training, means that they're not as effective as U.S. troops. The little D is that the United States presence in Africa is limited right now. You can look to AFRICOM shortage, where they literally don't have tanks, planes, or anything to be able to enforce anything that they want to do in Africa. The third point is that intel is increasing right now. You can look at the UAV base that was recently installed in Niger. The fourth argument is that extremist infiltration is high. The little A is you can look to the city of Gao that was overrun with Al-Qaeda in the Islamic Maghreb. The little B is that Akeem is governing certain parts of Mali right now because they have literally taken over that large of a presence. The little C is that weapons are circulating plentifully through the region as a result of the collapse of the Gaddafi regime. The B point of the links. The first is that we fulfill the mission mandate through MINUSMA. The second argument is that this counters Akeem by supporting the Malian peacekeeping mission by providing them with enough troops to actually be able to do this. And my papers are out of order. The C point of the internal links. The first argument is stability. The Malian government is going to be able to maintain order and prevent future threats by means of establishing their own control over the region. The second argument is military intervention is going to pressure tribal groups to realign with the government. I'll get you at the end of the advantage. This is going to be preferable because it creates a mutual allegiance between the tribal groups, which resolves the internal conflicts that are happening between the tribal groups right now. The third argument is that these threats are immediate, preventing the Malian people from developing their own lifestyle, because at the point at which they aren't able to develop their own society, then they don't have the opportunity to provide for their own futures. The fourth argument is that this is going to prevent infiltration into the future in other regions, because when we stabilize this region, it can no longer be used as a base for Akeem. The D support of the impacts. The first argument is stability and order. This is going to be key to Malian sovereignty, because only once they have control over their own area can the government actually truly be sovereign. The second argument is that this is going to be key to development, because there is not going to be any investment at the point at which there is massive instability in the region. Moreover, you can look to Akeem directly contributing to this instability, because they look to subvert the government that is already there, and stability leads to a spillover. Then when there's a lack of stability in Mali, it leads to a lack of stability in other places. The second argument is the protection of life. You can look to Akeem that is harassing and killing people right now. It means that these individuals are actually dying, and we need to fulfill the mandate in order to protect their lives. Quickly.
Yeah, you make this argument about how Mali Somali, or how the United States involvement is going to prevent terror attacks when Somalia is going to be stable. Can you give me an example where U.S. intervention has decreased terror attacks, or any of those
if you guys have an argument, please go forward in your speech. I don't have time. Advantage to its refugees. They support his needs. The first argument is that there are currently 200,000 people displaced in Mali right now, according to the International Displacement Monitoring Center. The little A is that many people have been forced to sell all that they had in order to be able to relocate to safer areas. The little B is that southern Mali is becoming a humanitarian void, as most assistance is focused on the northern regions. The second argument is that refugees are experiencing malnutrition and violence right now. The little A is that many of these are displaced and consist of families. The little B is that in 2013, there 150,000 food rations were distributed between 350,000 displaced individuals, means that these individuals don't get enough food. The third argument is that UN forces are overstretched right now. The little A is that the UN called for 11,200 peacekeeping troops, but only has 5,800 supplied. The little B is that likewise the United Nations Refugee Agency and the World Food Program needed 130 million and 836 million, and 836 million to support the displaced civilians of Mali, but only received 9.2 million and 4 million respectively. I think those numbers are wrong, sorry. The basic point is the link. The first argument is inducing USA. The second argument is that this will induce USA because when we fulfill the equipment mandate, then we are providing the food necessary. The second argument is that this will lead to a decrease in instability because when people have access to food, then they're no longer dying out of starvation. The third argument is that they're going to prevent overstretch because we're providing enough troops to prevent that. The CISA point of the internal links. The first argument is that the effects on children leads to psychological trauma, and these impacts their development and nutrition at a very basic level and leads to PTSD that is a lasting effect. The second argument is that it decreases the strain on current efforts. The third argument is that we are going to allow NGOs in because when it's safe, the NGOs are going to feel comfortable entering. The fourth argument is that MINUSA emphasizes the protection of women and children. The decent point of the impacts. The first argument is the cycle of poverty, the cyclical poverty and death. Troops are not able to reach those in need right now as a result of their lacking numbers. This leads to an impact to 1.3 million people because poverty worsens because these individuals don't get access to education and they're internally trapped there.
Okay, so order is going to be one off, and then on case with a no, one off, then two more, so three off, and then on case.
Is one of the UK?
No.
Do I need top case background?
Yeah, it's good. Like, it's gonna be a solvency. That's rest. So I don't know where you're gonna put that.
Should, yeah.
Cool. Thank you. For sure. Is the interpretation of the interpretation that fulfilling MINUSMA means fulfilling the entire plan, not just the gaps. The violation, they only fill the gaps. Specifically, we say this happens in the equipment mandate where they say they're going to send all necessary equipment with things like clothes. We say specifically they're asking for 965 computers, 23 aircraft, $300 million, well, 590 vehicles, and 28 generators. The standard number one is going to be on ground. We say this key predictable ground because multiple gaps, meaning that we can't predict which ones you're going to decide to fulfill. Second, that we say is key to checking side bias because pre-release topics mean you can make hyper-specific plans. We have to check back with the topic literature that's given. Voters are going to be for fairness, which is key to maintaining the debate because form comes over content. Next is going to be the disadvantage of midterms. The AZ meeting is one of we said on March 4th, the Washington Post ABC said the Dems are doing better because they're more in touch with the nation's concerns. The B point is that we said the Dems are focusing on rallying voters in 10 states, which include North Carolina, Louisiana, Arkansas, Alaska, Montana, Michigan, Iowa, Georgia, as well as Kentucky. They have lobbying efforts to spend over $60 million within the coming months. The arguments that we say the indicators suggest the Democrats will hold a majority because increasing job numbers specifically usually give Democrats a better fortune in the future. We said that also the Republicans are only likely to win 5 seats right now, but the D points we said the Republicans only need 6 for a majority. The league number one is the plans of popular 8 points that GOP has said that they are specifically, they have a fear of the United States committing to the United Nations because it looks like we're giving up sovereignty as well as U.S. involvement in Africa. It looks like we're taking our interests away from oil interests in the Middle East. We said the 38 Senate Republicans rallied against this involvement in November. Second argument that said the GOP sees it as unnecessary increase in spending. The 8 points that said that we had to cut our military budget by billions of dollars, which they have seen as negative to our to our military overall. Third argument is that the Republicans and Democrats see it as a bad use of our resources because the chairwoman of the House of Foreign Affairs, Republican Eileen Ross-Linden, said the U.S. doesn't want the U.S. to take the lead right now. Fourth argument is that it proves that the Republicans feel like they're being ignored. The 8 points that we say that empirically proven with past votes on Mali, the Republicans have repeatedly said no because they feel like they're being ignored of the issue. These points to the House Armed Services Committee, Adam Smith, Democrat, has said the U.S. help in Mali would be politically impossible. The 5 points that we say the Democrats have a lot to lose because they have 21 out of 35 seats to play. The 8 points that we say that the vote backlash happens to be, as well as finger pointing against the Democrats, which splits the vote overall. The internally number one is we say that voter backlash media spotlighting ultimately turn out for a low turnout for Democrats. We say that this ultimately means that the GOP lose their own turnout because there's weak candidates for the Democrats, but additionally we say that lobbying efforts that don't specifically want intervention Mali spend over $500 million every year. We said the impact of what is that the Republicans have said that they take control, that they will block any nominees by Obama. This either means that they either block the nominees, or that means that Obama has to compromise over issues. This is specific to things like the Russian and Iranian sanctions. We say that ultimately what this means is that one of these types of sanctions will pass, which is inherently bad because it means that in the scenario of a great power sanction, probably means that this is likely to increase the war scenario in places like Korea, as well as Iranian sanctions also increase the war propensity with Russia. We said this is particularly bad because it means that we say the war scenarios are bad because since the U.S. can't win the land war with the country, it probably means that we are put in a position where we have to go nuclear. We said nuclear was bad because it causes global acidification, blackouts, which cause extinction. Counterplan. Text. Switzerland will fulfill the United Nations multidimensional integrated stabilization of Mali through troop and equipment mandate by sending 5,350 troops and all necessary equipment. Switzerland will do the plan. What?
Status and copy.
Unconditional.
Unconditional. Competition number one is to say that we're not going to be linking to the politics specifically because it's not the United States doing it. Additionally, we say that the United States look favorably on Switzerland because they appear as a good source for Republicans. Additionally, second argument is that we also say it doesn't link to the net benefit because we say we have never Switzerland has never historically been an imperialist type of country. First solvency arguments we said that Switzerland has compulsory military service when people turn to adults, which means they have a ready military service. Second argument is that we say that they have a history of allowing the military to be used in other countries and on separate issues. We say they're culturally used to doing things like the counterplan. We say that there are no demands back against it. We said they have over 4 million troops that are combat ready right now, which means they probably have the 5,000. You can see a look back to last year where they mediated a dialogue between the government and the Tuareg, which prevented escalation, and then the France involvement proved that it went to shit afterward. The third argument is we also say that they are good for humanitarian rights because most of their operations and training are in humanitarian nature, and they buy their equipment from around the world. Examples in the Balkans in Kosovo 2008 when the Swiss army stabilized as well as gave sovereignty and self-actualized borders to the country. Fourth argument is we said the further U.S. involvement because the Swiss army, where it looks like the U.S. is trying to take a lead role. You can look to the first Balkan example where the U.S. went and fucked up the region. The net benefit? Sort of criticism, I guess. The first argument for we say that we say that without an interrogation methodology, we lead to serial policy failure. We say it's entirely fits under your framework because we're only interrogating the methodology, not trying to exclude. Second argument, we say that this is also key to breadth because it means that we've won the race to the middle by looking both at the critical implication of all policy and the methodology that is used to inform your policy. Third argument, we say bad policy making ultimately leads to, or bad methodology leads to bad policy making. You can look to the example of Iraq, where the United States went in and now they don't have civil society development. The thesis that we say the U.S. government seeks to maintain political dominance by fears of crisis, as well as fostering independency from aid recipients. The link number one is that Mali being looked at as a failed state in crisis ultimately means that we look like a savior complex, which is the U.S. logic of all types of interventions within Africa. Second argument is that the Aff solvency claims about the U.S. being able to solve means that Mali is viewed as a war zone where we only have an image of something to dominate. You can look to the example in, that modern Kabul looks like a Manhattan, but all the pictures we see look like rubble and hillsides. The impact number one is to say the U.S. aid corrupts self-actualization because ultimately means that we have a monomaniacal code of sacrifice in the United States where we don't actually have any ability to have our own kind of moral values on what our government is doing. Ultimately, this means we sacrifice our self-actualization and cede our agency to the government. Second argument is to also say that this type of savior complex ultimately means we get involved in great power wars, which become inevitable with U.S. unilateral action. Means we're always claiming little proxy states, which means we always come to conflict with greater states like China who want to get involved and take control of the same resource access that we have. You can cross-apply by extinction would be bad in this scenario of war. On case. My first argument is the status quo assaults. We say the UN mission is succeeding right now. They killed the major jihadist leader Omar Al-Maha a few days ago, as well as their decreasing mining efforts by sending in more U.S. forces, or the Aff would demine, which also sends more international jihadists into the region because of view to safer. The second argument is to also say that we said there is a turning out of Mali now. The 8 points that we said the UN Security Council on February 1st said that the Mali mission was actually complete. The B arguments that we say this key move would be transition would be a de facto power move back into the hands of Mali's government. The C argument is that we said the Aff disrupts this by doubling down on the UN occupation, which leads to no long-lasting peace. Third argument is we said the EU would also be able to solve Euro affirmative because France and Germany have sent troops into Mali, as well as they have future operations planned to send them in as of 2 weeks ago. That we say that Merkel is committed to doing whatever is necessary to make the mission successful. My next argument is a turn that we say that this takes all talks, according to Euronews. The A points that rebels have agreed to garrison their troops until the peace talks can happen. The B points that said the increased U.S. involvement in MINUSMA makes it look like the Mali government is averting talks, which ultimately turns the app and proves that escalation becomes inevitable in this scenario. On the first advantage, on the link scenario, they say that this threats people's lifestyle. Their advantage 2 proves this wrong. That refugees already prove that the lifestyle is unstable. Additionally, they have no internalized impact. We say that you saying that sovereignty is key is not actually an impact, as well as development doesn't actually mean anything. We say spillover is already happening now. Your advantage 2 isolates this. Advantage 2. My first argument is not unique. The PRC as well as Nigeria are slated to send more troops as well. Germany, as we said before, probably means that the UN isn't overstretched. But the link turn will ultimately mean UN gets more overstretched because it looks like an infringement upon PRC rights, which means the PRC pulls out, ultimately turning your advantage 2 toward the negative.
What's your order?
There's T, case, which is going to be straight down. I got a little mixed up on where each flow went, but I'll make sure to sign those each argument.
I have most of it on solvency.
Yeah, same here. Then it will be disad, counterplan, and then that is the counterplan. I put it on separate sheet of paper, I'll make sure to sign those. And then Nishi number.
Usually.
If we get to it. Everybody ready? Cool.
First, we meet your interpretation because we are going to provide for the entirety of the plan. We does say that it was within the plan text that we are provided to the entirety of the plan. Second is the power interpretation that fulfill means to bring up to completion. Fulfill means to bring up to completion. C. Third, we meet this interpretation because we are bringing up the entirety of the troop and equipment mandate to the levels that is isolated by the United Nations. Third, fourth is the counter's first debatability. We say this is a debatable interpretation that allows both teams to do fair and predictable ground. Second is grammar. We say that this is grammatically legitimate interpretation. We say that you insert this in the resolution. We say that this would be a grammatically understandable reading of the resolution. Third is affirmative right to define the affirmative right to define the resolution reasonably through parametrics as long as both debatable and grammatically. We say that this allows both active team Dr. Brown and Professor Neg from writing Kevin Tom Kelly Shell to be able to be. You say ground first. We say that you have ground in you read after the ultimate after counterplays and you have case arguments. You have ground issues. We say you can always guarantee the ground that you want. You say side by. We say that first that this is a fairly debatable round. We say that you don't have any access to this edition. Second, we say that you that we have to provide you access to wall. Your link sensitivity if you don't get access to this. You and cross-platform our framework argument said you should not be evaluating community interpretations. You should always default to reasonability because it leads to a solution. Case debate. The first argument we make here is that's result could have just killed the leader. First, we say the use is one leader, not the entirety of the movement necessarily means there's still a problem addition. Second, we say that you should look to our benchmark. We tell you that not the defense has been withdrawing the status quo necessarily means that there are that there are gaps that are being filled in. Additionally, third, we say that more troops are that more your actors are coming in from other regions. We gave you that argument through the PMC. It says that necessarily means that even if we kill one, means there's still more coming in. Necessarily means we the influence necessarily that is key. The next argument you make here is about demining. We then this leads more balance. We say the first we say that mines are being increased in the status quo necessarily and being placed by jihadist groups, and it means that the means plan is key to get in and actually eliminate this part. In addition, second we say that the plan resolves these issues and allows for the necessary troops to be able to solve this in this now necessarily means that there's no reason as to why your demining argument is function. The next argument here is to say that this would cause more jihadists to come in. We say that we provide the extra troop necessary means we're probably solve out this argument and you don't impact it necessarily means we resolve these issues issues. The next argument you make here is that the United States you say that the United Nations says that the issue of problems was complete. You completely ignore the entire first advantage to tell you that there are more jihadists coming in, and that the equipment, the United Nations says that the equipment mandate is not being fulfilled in the status quo. There's still that deficit. 5,000 troops means that they can't leave the plan necessary key to solve these. Your argument here doesn't matter. The next argument you make is the Aff double down and stops the transition to the government. We say that the government doesn't have power in the status quo. You concede all of our arguments to say that the most assistance is only going into the north and that the south is being ignored. This has led to a refugee crisis. Necessarily means the government doesn't have control over the country in the status quo. Means that the Aff is key to provide for the government to reclaim control. The next argument you make here is that the EU is able to solve the Aff. We say that first you concede our analysis said that France is withdrawing in the status quo. Means that this argument doesn't work. Additionally, second we say that the EU doesn't have the political will to act in the status quo. We say they're dealing with internal problems such as their debt crisis. Necessarily means that there's no propensity for the EU to act. The last argument you make here, do you have this last argument?
This is going to tank all talks.
Oh, you make this argument that's going to tank all talks. That talks aren't happening in the status quo. You make this analysis on the counterplan flow that says that Switzerland negotiated talks, but then everything went to shit and then moved in. That means that there's no propensity for talks. Additionally, second to say that it means that they've been the jihad groups are Soviet gung-ho into the north. That means there's no propensity for talks to happen in the status quo. Means start argument doesn't.
I have these next set of arguments slow on advantage.
You make the argument that people aren't able to actually like self-actualize and get all the things that necessarily need. We say that first that we provide them with the equipment mandate necessarily means that we are providing for things like food aid for them to be able to solve out for these harm positions. Second, we say that we resolve these issues by stabilizing the country. You can see all of our analysis on advantage one says that development is stability is key to development, and that development is key for individuals to get access to things they need. Necessarily means that this argument doesn't function. Means that the plan probably solves this. The last argument you make here is that there's no impact to this. We solve this backwards. Even moving the way we do impact this scenario will tell you that people are dying as a result of jihadist attacks and that there are problems associated with the development leading to increases in poverty. Necessarily means that we to still get the impacts of this scenario. Advantage 2. You say non-unique that the PRC in Nigeria are sending troops. Say the first PRC that there's not to be able to resolve the mandate. Addition, second, say that because France is withdrawing, necessarily means that at best it's just that this is going to even out. Means the United States is still necessary to fill in. Means the argument doesn't function. The next argument you make here is that PRC will pull out. We say that first there's no propensity for this. We say that the PRC is moving into Africa and will support any stabilization efforts. There's no reason for the United States for a backlash against the United States. Means that we probably resolve this scenario. And additionally, second, we say that there's no impact to this. We are filling up the mandate. And when there's 20 countries within the region that are providing everything necessary, means that the plan probably resolves this issue midterms. First argument is that non-union Republicans are going to win now. The little A's, you can look at the Affordable Care Act that many individuals say the Affordable Care Act is going to cause them to vote for Republican senators and congressmen in the midterm. Means that this is going to kill the Democrats. The little B here, so you can look at the Democrats distancing themselves in the status quo. 6 senators, several from New York, necessarily said they're distancing themselves from Obama and want to get away from policies that are going to cause them to lose. The little C here, so you can look at the Democrats are looking weak on security in the status quo. You can look at the fact that Democrats are getting slammed for not placing sanctions on Iran. Means that it's going to cost the Democrats losing the midterms. The second argument, the no link that Obama is going to take the blame. Our argument here is that the military interventions is the president that takes the blame, not the party necessarily. Means that Democrats are going to be able to distance themselves from Obama on this issue. Means there's no propensity for a backlash. The third argument here is the turn that the plan actually caused Democrats to win. The argument here is to rally around the flag effect that military interventions make the Democrats look strong in security and allow them to check back against harm. So allow them to check back against looking weak on security. It allows them to actually look stronger and be able to garner more votes and take away from Republican base on these issues that want to look strong and pro-American. Means that we probably increase Democratic support. Additionally, the last argument here is there's no internal link to the scenario. We say that all of your arguments are very long term. There's no propensity for sanctions to happen. Additionally, last argument here is that all of your arguments on sanctions don't work in a world where Obama would just veto all of these arguments. Means there's no means that at best you get a gridlock in Congress, but there's no propensity for any of the bills that you talk about to happen, and they're all long time frame. Our system, you should always be requiring our systemic impacts. Counterclaim. First argument is perm depot. Perm solvency, the first argument here is that providing for more troops, both the United States and Switzerland, allows for greater access and allows for more troops to be able to resolve the issue faster. Means it's probably net benefit to do the permutation. The second argument here is that these two things are not mutually exclusive. You don't provide a reason as to why these two actors can function independently. Means this probably resolves the issue. Additionally, third, we say that the shield, the link, the net benefit. Our argument here is that we can check back against the supposed imperialism of the United States and be able to check back against the harms that you talk about. Probably means that the both countries working together checks back against these for these forms of the sacred complex. The fourth and second argument here is no solemnity. The argument here is that Switzerland's not ready for this kind of intervention. Say the training and the mandate hasn't happened. The United States is expecting this. Necessarily means that it's going to take longer for Switzerland to act. Additionally, the third argument here is the design of the capital plan in Switzerland is probably worse for things like imperialism. Our argument is that Switzerland did things like colonization of Africa back in the 1900s. That means that's still in period. I'm not going to get time for you that they are like engaged in those forms of imperialism in Africa. Our argument is that this necessarily that you're probably causing these same kind of things. Not only does that mean you link back into that benefit, but it's probably also mean that that's going to be worse on the net. But really quickly to say that we do not link to the savior complex argument that you were making. Said we are actually checking this back. We tried to our writer PMC talk about how we are going to support the Malian government, allow them to reclaim our own stability, to be able to check back. This means that we probably are taking back against this for better.
Right, I'm going to be going T. Counter plan, net benefit. The solvency press. And then ticks. Advantage 2. Advantage 1. Does anybody do that again?
Did I get
T. Counter plan, net benefit. Solvency page. Politics. Add 2, add 1. On the topicality, you can send across where we mean, but they're not going for it, but there's a few key arguments that I'm going to need. I want to use across our interpretation when we're talking about all the different equipment mandates that would be following for the new stuff. This would be particularly key to the no link them out of all their stats because they're trying to claim for food aid. When we articulate that food aid is not part of the new stuff, means they don't get access to the advantage, but additionally,
they just say if it's debatable.
Yeah, they only say if it's debatable, that means to be said that there's means if it's debatable, there's no offense on this page, no reason for interpretation. Okay, counterpoint. First, they try to put a pronoun here because it's not mutually exclusive. We say that it's competitive through the benefit way. Once we prove that you link it to the imperialism, means you can never look above with the perm because it means you're always going to be asking the imperialism that happens in the status quo. But additionally, they try to say the net benefits mean more troops in the solve faster. You can cross-apply our it is our, I think, second status quo solves argument number B, saying that when you increase the United States troops, it means they were less likely to actually transition to a de facto Malian government being able to stably control. It means that the means of the perm actually causes more problems, and then the perm actually causes more problems. But then they say that it shows the links to net benefit because it looks like they're working together. They don't give you any analysis that they're working together. This would be intrinsic to the perm, which you're always going to put it down because intrinsic is bad for perm. But additionally, we say they wouldn't work together because this is not empirically happened in the past. But we would say the United States would focus with the UN, but additionally on the solvency, they make the solvency of Switzerland is ready. You can cross-apply analysis. They have 4 million combat-ready troops. This argument that they're not ready, they just don't listen to our solvency.
Also that they buy equipment from all over the world.
Also, they buy equipment from all over the world, so they probably have better access to the equipment that they're talking about because they have a better diversification of different equipment, not just the United States equipment, but additionally, they try to put a discount that can't prove that Switzerland is worse for colonialism. This is laughable because they've literally done nothing colonial in Africa. Yeah, right?
I mean, their example is the 1900s. I think our 08 example is probably better.
Okay. Yeah, all the colonialism examples they give you are coming from, or they don't even give you any colonialist examples, but we say that they give you any colonialist actions. It's going to be coming from the 1900s. There's nothing current. We say that the United States is currently engaging in colonialism in Africa. This means they're always going to be more for the colonialist factors. You can also press by analysis that Switzerland has helped mediate the dialogue talks that are currently the dialogue between free France invasion, meaning that they also have no economic investment within the region, means they're less likely to be imperial because they have no region. The next they try to make this argument that we link to the net benefit. They don't give you analysis about why. They just say that Switzerland is imperialist. We see that arguments about answer that back, but additionally I want to drop down to the net benefit. Look, when they put one no link argument on the net benefit, it means that even if you don't buy it personally, you have to vote on it because it goes conceded. You can sit across our framework, which means you get full access to it, but additionally I want to drop down to the links. They say there's no link that right now their rhetoric is supporting the Malian government. I want you to look at their solvency, what they're calling for, they're calling for this to keep sulfur violence, and that the Malian government does, I think it's actually the uniqueness among their advantages, but they particularly use in the rhetoric of their speech, that the Malian government is unable to do it themselves, they don't have the troop support, and that the United States is the only actor that has the type of equipment and training necessary to train the Malian people. This is exactly what we're talking about. This is rhetoric from LSE.
Also, link number 2 proves its methodology.
They also send across link number 2. This proves methodology. It means that it's not just your rhetoric. It's also it is the justification behind it. Meaning, when you don't answer this back, means we get full access to the impacts. We say your impacts limitation.
We explain this thing.
Yeah.
Their claims about solvency for the U.S. makes Somalia just look like a war zone in everyone's
Right.
eyes.
Okay. With the way that they depict Mali within their solvency means that it makes Mali look like a war zone within everyone's eyes, because we see literally them as because this could be the status of like refugee status, the fact that these rebels, the Tuareg rebels within the area are like inherently harmful. We see that the Tuareg rebels have actually been giving food aid to the civilians because the food aid has not been able to reach them from the UN. We say because this is happening means that you are demonizing a certain group without even interrogating what is happening. We see this is a link to the imperialism critique that you mishandle, but additionally this means you need to send across impacts. It completely turns the entirety of case. It's actually the first one to aid perhaps the self-actualization. We're going to go for the second impact. We extend across. The second impact is that you create the great power wars we're talking about because you literally unilaterally set the United States in here, which we say is going to lead to the extinction that you're talking about. You want me to do anything more on that?
Say that this probably happens on a better time frame.
Yeah, we also say this is going to happen on a quicker time frame because literally as the United States goes in there, it's going to create the type of backlash that we're talking about, which is on the solvency. So go for now. Solvency. The first argument, I want the first status quo solvency argument. They just don't answer this one. Though they say that we've only killed one leader, but they've only killed one leader. This is not responsive specifically to our argument. First, two arguments they make. It's going to be specifically judgmental. They say the United States is keeping demining. This is the link that we're giving you. Is the demining means that it looks more safe for jihadists to go within the region. We is saying that the mines that are being put in are not being put in by the rebels that you're talking about, being put in by imperialist actors like the United States in order on the border and order stuff. The type of invasion that's happening. We also see it was always U.S. and it's the United States intervention and the United States selling the mines to these actors that actually caused the mining that is currently happening. But we also say the second nuance that you totally misunderstand is that anti-American sentiment within the region increases jihadist increases non-state actor recruitment. Remember, this is empirically proven within the different neighboring regions. Means you increase the violence within the region. Means you decrease the instability. This is a direct case that you just don't answer the next. You can send across the second to. Oh yeah, they say they're providing troops means they're going to answer back. They're going to answer back to the jihadists. We say that this is empirically not proven within Iraq and Afghanistan. That the more troops they send in, the stronger Al-Qaeda became. The next, they say the government is not able to solve with power, or the government Mali is not going to be able to solve with the power and status quo. This is the link to the imperialism, saying that the Mali government is never going to be able to solve. We say that the Mali government has had access to the ability to solve it. To utilize a lot of the United States and Western imperialism actions that have caused this crisis to happen. Next, they make this argument the refugee crisis. They never pick this out. We see Switzerland will always fall back to the refugee crisis better because they have better human. I think it's like the third solvency we make it possible here. They have better access to human rights because this is how they've been culturally centered for the last couple decades and how they've been involved in other countries. The next, they say the EU could solve with this, and they don't correctly answer our third argument, saying that France is withdrawing the status quo and that EU doesn't want to do it. Send across where you say Merkel has committed in Germany to doing everything possible to solve for Mali. Meaning, even if you don't give us access to Switzerland solving, status quo is going to solve as well. But additionally, that means that additionally on the last, it takes the talks to say the talks are not happening in the status quo. You can send this. Do you want this turn?
No, that's fine.
Okay.
But specifically, they're saying that Merkel won't do it because of their debt.
Oh yeah, they first say Merkel won't do it because of their debt. This is just analysis that they're coming out of it. You're going to prefer it's been a direct quote that's coming from Merkel. That was like 2 weeks. It's like 2 weeks old. It's functionally. Okay. Takes. We're not going for takes. We say that we're going to be winning on the counterclaim, but there's only one piece of offense that I need to answer for something. The non-uniqueness arguments is when we prove that the entirety of our uniqueness is going. When our uniqueness is going to win over their uniqueness, means all the link turns that they're making they go away. They don't get access to solving for all the impacts. We say you want to extend across a specific analysis about how Democrats will be winning now because they have $60 million in lobbying. All they try to say is that the Republicans are going to win because the ACA. They don't give any analysis of this. We say the ACA impacts have been seen already, especially since they've already tried 5 vetoes. Additionally, we say the ACA is very extremely popular between the constituency. It's only the Republicans that don't like it, so that means the Democrats are going to continue to win. Additionally, they say the Democrats are distancing themselves from the status quo. It's not true. They're currently trying to rally the base against the Republicans because the Republicans should have shut down the government. We say that they see this is the best way to be able to win. And next, they say the Democrats look weak in the status quo because they're losing this. It's absolutely not true. You see the Democrats look the strongest because of the reason the provincial shutdown. In fact, Republicans haven't been passing any bills means you don't get access to no links. Means on the advantage you stand across the turn on the
Bottom of advantage one.
Yeah.
This is the only one we need. That they don't answer specifically that their refugee crisis proves spillover is happening now.
Okay. I want you to go down to bottom of advantage one. The refugee crisis now proves that spillover is already happening, meaning these impacts are non-unique and that their plan is not going to be able to solve for them, and that the only way to solve for them is through Switzerland. So,
okay, so it's going to be the solvency arguments, and then the advantages, then the counterplan and net benefit. We tell you on the case, and it goes conceded, that their own arguments on Advantage 2 prove that spillover and refugee crisis means that there's probably a large propensity that there's not anything they actually solve back for if those things are happening now. Then that means there is a likelihood that the unconditional counterplan solves back for an inevitable extinction scenario when the U.S. imperialist notions ultimately mean we come into conflicts with other actors that causes great power wars. These are conceded from the MG and reasons why the PMR doesn't have anything to go for on case arguments. First of all, we're going to go for specific details on combination. The first offense we need specifically is what Becca's talking about, that they're just not answering, that their own arguments in the MG about how we demine probably means that the region gets invaded by those jihadists who are scared to come in now because of the current mines that are in place. This probably means that their own arguments indicate that they would cause more destabilization under the plan, meaning that you would solve back for your advantage. The only other defensive argument we need is that you answer back saying that France is withdrawing now, and you say the EU means that the EU debt means that they're not going to send. We said this is not specific enough. Merkel has said that she is committed to do whatever is necessary to solve back for the problems that are going on in Mali now. You don't answer back the specificity. You only use France that doesn't answer back that. Even if you get up and try and use that same argument that it's just going to even out, Merkel has said she will do whatever is necessary, probably indicating that she will fulfill any kind of gap that is remaining, even under your arguments. On the Advantage 1. At the bottom of Advantage 1, they're arguing that spillover is probably bad. Since this is their terminalized impact, we said that there's no actual terminalization that the PMR can go for. They just said that people die. We don't know what people dying means. At most, they say 1 million people. We're probably going to outweigh on the Great Power Wars. But additionally, we say that since your refugee crisis proof the spillover is happening now, probably indicating that you probably don't solve for people in Mali when the spillover is happening outside of those borders. It means that this would not unique the entirety of your second dissent about refugees, because it means that your argument about sickness and poverty and death can't be solved within Mali because it's already spilled over to other borders. Meaning you kill millions of people within Africa, which is akin to the Democratic Republic of the Congo conflicts, which have caused more deaths in the 20th century than any other wars combined. This indicates we're probably winning on at least magnitude of defense on the case, as well as the magnitude of the wars coming on the counterplan net benefit. On politics. Specifically, Beck is extending across specific arguments about how that Democrats are more in touch with the nation's concerns. Their arguments about Republicans winning are things that Republicans have been complaining about for at least 8 years. It means that there is not a likelihood the Republicans are probably going to win under their arguments. They're not specific enough. Becca tells you that the Democrats are going to spend over $60 million in lobbying efforts in 10 specific states which are controlled by Democrats. This probably means that there is not a likelihood the Republicans would take back these states under $60 million, as well as in blue states. These arguments are too specific for them to go for any of the link turns on politics. On the counterplan. They can't go for the permutation because Becca specifically says that no matter what, because you've conceded the net benefit, it means the permutation is going to link to the impact. You just say that the other actors can work together. This is not specific enough as to why U.S. involvement means it looks like Western intervention. That's probably bad. These are not specific enough to counter ourselves. You just say the Swiss isn't ready. We say 4 million combat troops, as well as tons of equipment, probably mean that we are uniquely ready, as well as they have empirically proven not to be colonialist in the past, because the 2008 Kosovo proves this. One argument on the net benefit means you vote neg de facto, because we have a competitive plan that is much, much better. Specifically, they say that they support the rhetoric, but our claims are on their methodology. And our specific link number 2 says that they create the image of Mali as a war zone. And specifically, Becca says that the Tuaregs have actually shown in the past to have good dialogues. We've said that this is probably a good thing. They have great classic rock as well. But also we say that the great power war that's inevitable under the world of the plan means that the competitive counter plan is the only way to solve. Yeah.
What's the order?
My order will be solvency, counterplan, disad, advantage 1, advantage 2. And there's going to be a little overview at the top.
But the proceedings of the counterplan and net benefit, politics, this out of the counterplan.
Sorry, solvency of the case,
Yeah.
counterplan in the order of perm net benefit, midterms disad, advantage one, advantage two.
Alright, we're good.
There are a couple problems with the status quo solvers that they're going for. They say that we're not responsible when we say that only one leader isn't killing the entire movement. However, that is entirely responsible. We killed Osama bin Laden, but that didn't kill Al-Qaeda and the Islamic Maghreb. Like, just because you kill a leader doesn't mean you kill a movement. Ideas last longer than people do. That is a reason why this is still necessary. The status quo is never going to be able to solve. The next argument that they go for is that Merkel is going to be able to commit all of these troops. However, they fundamentally fail to respond to the key arguments that Corey makes. The first argument that Corey makes is that French withdrawal means that they are probably only going to account for the fact that France is pulling out right now means that they're never going to get full access to solvency. But moreover, you can extend Corey's argument about how the internal debt crisis means that there isn't the political will to be able to do this. Merkel isn't able to do this herself, as Corey's argument is that there needs to be the political will within the country in order for them to be able to solve entirely, means that their status quo solves arguments are never going to be able to resolve the entirety of the uniqueness scenarios out of advantage 1 and advantage 2, means that we still get access to solvency. Are you happy with the Corey?
So the argument came out first is that EU politics ultimately means that they can't solve. This has been shifted into internal Germany politics means Germany can't solve.
I mean, I would argue that what Corey was saying is that the EU politics, maybe he mislabeled it, but he was saying that the German internal politics are problematic for that solvency argument.
And the LOC's argument was focused on the EU as a whole, and the MO focused into Germany, so this is an okay articulation.
Yeah, it's a panel. I would say that I have the Merkel warrant from the LOC. The MG response is the EU not having the government's line. And then obviously the MO makes, close that and try to get something to answer that. Okay. That's not, those are the arguments I have.
I'll get some questions.
More worse, more troops, it probably means that we're only going to be able to solve faster. Is the reason why we probably still get access to some solvency. While there might not still be a brink scenario on advantage 1 and advantage 2, we probably still get linear access, which is going to outweigh the point at which there isn't a disad still in the round today, means that the affirmative team is still going to be winning.
Alright, onto the counterplan. Overview for the counterplan. The only way that they could possibly win this, since they don't have a disad anymore, is through the net benefit. But when the perm functions, the net benefit doesn't freaking matter. Let's go to the perm debate.
They say that this is just going to lead to the masking of imperialism, but at the point at which they are reading the arguments about why Switzerland is so good at making sure that political processes are maintained through even when other...
Any comparison about why Switzerland, well, actually, sorry, this is
You should
the
probably
yeah.
make the argument first.
Yeah. Sorry, trigger happy.
Alright, where was that?
Switzerland doesn't matter.
Yeah, right.
Corey extends their argument that Switzerland is able to maintain the peace processes when they are in the argument, and he says that this is why the perm is going to be able to resolve the imperialism net benefit that they are going for, because when Switzerland is there, they are able to check back against other countries, creating bad political processes. They read the argument that when Switzerland pulled out, that France muddied up the political process in some other country, and that we are saying that Switzerland is going to have the same effect. Here's why the perm is going to be able to function and resolve the imperialism net benefit, because when the United States is there, they are able to commit their troops, and Switzerland is able to slap the United States on the wrist when they're doing something bad. It means that we were able to resolve this.
You want to go now? Okay, I'll keep going.
The next argument that I want to go for is that they say this would be an intrinsic permutation. However, literally what we're saying is that, or they're saying this is going to be an intrinsic because we're saying that they're going to work together. However, we're saying that that's status quo in MINUSMA, that the 20 different countries that are participating there right now are already working together, is the reason why the United States and Switzerland would work together under the permutation. There's absolutely no intrinsic nexus here, and they don't even put a voter on it. There's no reason to reject the affirmative there. What else do you want here?
More working together means it's all faster.
Right, more working together only means that they're going to be able to solve faster, because having more troops probably means that you're able to check against any potential problems even quicker, because you have the ability to distribute the troops more effectively to secure regions and provide stability for the Malian government to be able to resume control over their region. Means that we probably get access to solving faster. Moreover, when they are reading the argument that Switzerland is going to resolve the link to the net benefit through the permutation, then we simply don't link to the net benefit. They argue that Switzerland resolves imperialism wherever it goes. They say that even when other countries are there, it resolves imperialism. Is probably a reason why the perm does not link to the net benefit, and this is not competitive, and the affirmative team is winning the debate today. Yeah, Corey?
Both together prevents any country from taking over.
Right, both acting together prevents any country from taking over, because when there's a multiplicity of actors like there already is through MINUSMA, and there is...
the argument of them working together prevents a country or like unilateral control or dominance over a country is new.
Okay, probably. I'll be on the net benefit now. There are a couple of problems with the arguments they're going for. The net benefit, she says specifically that Mali is not going to be able to do this, or that we say that Mali is not going to be able to do this themselves, that only the United States can solve this, but that isn't actually anywhere in the PMC shell. What I say is that Mali can't do it themselves right now. They need international support, not specifically the United States. Is the reason why we don't discursively link to this net benefit. The next argument that they go for is, right, extend the no link that that we're helping the government to reclaim their own control over the region is probably the reason why United States imperialism isn't something that you need to evaluate here. At the point at which all of the PMC rhetoric and all of the rhetoric surrounding MINUSMA is such that we are trying to stabilize Mali so that the government can resume control is probably the reason why the United States isn't going to be able to take over this entire region. But moreover, the link to this is shielded through the permutation. At the point at which they are saying that Switzerland is able to check against imperialism, we're probably never going to need to evaluate that. On to the disad. Or do you really want this?
I don't think so.
Okay, on advantage one. The only argument that they're going for on advantage one is that spillovers are already happening right now, but that's exactly our scenario, is that spillovers are happening right now and we're able to resolve this through the affirmative is probably the reason why we still get access to our advantages. Like, just because that's happening right now doesn't mean that we can't solve it. It needs to be happening for us to be able to solve it. It's probably the reason why we still get access to the protection of life.
Okay, so this is probably the last one, hopefully. But the impact scenario is spillover, not spillover happening now. So that would mean that...
I mean, I would argue that the entire impact scenario is that...
That they're making the impact scenario claim on the uniqueness level. Yeah, sorry.
Okay, I would say that my PMC shell says that we create stability and order, and it resolves the spillover. I specifically said that stability is key to resolving spillover in other countries because of spillover, or because of its unstable there, and it has the ability to spread to other countries because of the Akeem training centers, essentially, that are happening there.
Consideration.
Yep, sure. This would mean the affirmative team is going to be winning the debate against, because at the point at which we are still maintaining access to the impacts through the permutation, then we are still going to be resolving the lives of those individuals. You can go to the advantage too. At the point at which they don't put any new argumentation here, then you can extend across women's critical care and child soldiers that we are able to resolve these issues for these people.
Congratulations both teams to making it to the final field of the NPTE. Certainly not an easy thing to do. That ends up being a 2-0 decision for the Neg Utah University. I will go first. I think that sort of the one answer to the net benefit, which goes to extinction, is pretty scary to try to get out of. I think that your link defense you're going for about Switzerland cooperating and not letting the U.S. be imperialist may at best only be responsible for your first link argument. There's no contestation of the second link argument as to the pessimistic representation of Mali becoming a justification of action, which, as per a framework of methodology, which we'll talk about later, I guess means that causes their impact. I think that the net benefit doesn't make a ton of sense. It's a question of method, but the link is to the rhetoric that they choose to employ in this way, which justifies different types of methods in a certain way. I'm a little bit confused as to
I see how that can easily be fixed, but I understand what you're saying.
Right. To me, the choices of someone to represent a country inaccurately in a way that doesn't depict what's actually going on as justification for action, while maybe it's not a question of the method that the plan employs or the method by which the app is attempting to solve problems or anything that I would traditionally understand as methodology, which is why your defenses of cooperation and multilateralism might in fact be a defense of your methodology more broadly, but seems unresponsive to this link argument, which is conceded as a cause of extinction, which is sort of problematic. I would be much more in on your argument that Switzerland is maybe colonialist too. I think that the we post-date you as the only response in that question is also really, really risky, especially when we talk about masking colonial history and masking abuses of sort of global north powers and stuff like that. I think that's probably, there's lots of room to talk about why, well, not acknowledging the past, we're just saying, well, that was
was like slavery from a long time ago might not be a great way to address the way that we're trying to resolve these concerns. Slightly more compelling than the no link that the Swiss will check the United States as a way out. I also think that you had some opportunity to maybe go for turns of the disad, as that is also an extinction level impact, and then potentially making time frame and other sort of arguments. I think your kick out, while okay, is a little bit incomplete. I would be extending this Obama takes the blame argument as also reasons that Obama would get the credit, which would be a reason that none of their link turns would actually function, because Dems can't win if Obama gets credit. And that seems, and I would maybe also play some uniqueness game, because it is a extinction level impact or what have you, but that's certainly a way to get out of that a little bit faster and a little bit cleaner. Absent doing that, you guys just have to win uniqueness. You've got link turns that go to extinction as well, which at least then make you compare the likelihood and time frame of this sort of extinction via great power wars and colonial action versus the sort of disad. That or any sort of claims about, I don't know, many potential arguments against the net benefit, but I think that just the no link and the you also link is not quite enough. Yeah. I would go in on the you also link next time as a reason.
The way I saw the round is also exactly the same. I don't think you're responding to the links, even if Switzerland does go check imperialism everywhere they go. I don't think it's responsive about the links and net benefit. I was going to say the same thing about the politics. Just that if I was a PMR, I would have gone for the turns on it. Even if you get access to your Aff, you don't have an extinction impact anywhere. They tell me that it outweighs. The only chance you have to get close to outweighing the net benefit is that link turn on politics. I would have spent 5 minutes on it.
Yeah, we were.
Especially after the one argument on the net benefit.
Yeah, and we were that was the plan going into the PMR, was like to go for that for like a minute, but like in that last 50 seconds we're like case or politics.
Yeah, I was surprised that
the
PMR wasn't like it's going to be politics. So.
Yeah, I think politics, and then you go for the you also link as a reason to consider there's a less probability of the net benefit only going one way. Yeah. And then prefer politics for 1, 2, 3, 4, and making those kind of comparison contrasting claims, I think puts you in a much better position if you're a little bit behind on this sort of counter plan strat.
Okay.
Hey, congrats to
Thank you.
for being here. I'm sure we'll see you all in that rounds.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Yep. Best of luck.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I don't really need it.